Hey, it's Kent with VoidRealm Minis. Today I'm going to break down the NYARLATHOTEP set that I've sculpted for my patrons for the month of March. You can see my studio's in a bit of shamble behind me because I've got some new gear coming, a new airbrush and whatnot, so I'm moving a few things around. So let's stop looking at the grungy studio and dive right into ZBrush. If you happen to be new to the channel or aren't sure what this is you're watching, I launched my own line of Cosmic Horror and 3D printable miniatures last July, and I've been building on that ever since. I have a Patreon where you can get this bundle of files as 3D printable STLs for right now just $5. It's a really awesome value, and I have a lot of fun coming up with original Cosmic Horrors and other cool stuff for you guys to 3D print at home and add to your tabletop. That said, this month I decided to tackle Nyarlathotep, the classic H.P. Lovecraft villain, and try to do my own take on him. I started this month's sculpt with this pharaoh, which I've called the Strange Pharaoh. The classic humanized avatar of Nyarlathotep is a pharaoh that comes out of Egypt, and that's how Lovecraft describes him. So I wanted to create a sculpt humanoid. I haven't done a lot of overtly humanoid stuff yet, and something that is reminiscent of an Egyptian pharaoh, but a little bit off or a little bit strange. I thought it was important to kind of recognize that maybe this god would take elements of Egyptian mythology and corrupt them for his purposes, so that we wouldn't just put something very blatantly Egyptian on him and call that evil. I think that's a bit insulting to Egyptian culture and history, but I think we can take the idea that this chaos god would pervert that stuff and bend it for his own will. So this is the character. We've got a couple of things. You can obviously see the tentacles are shadow tendrils swooping up the back of his cloak here. He's got some nice hieroglyphs that kind of merge the Eye of Horus with a little bit of an Ankh and also vaguely wing-like or creature-like to just kind of suggest something else is going on there. I put some extra detail into his headpiece, and he's got this cool amulet that he's rocking as a necklace. So that's the Strange Pharaoh. This is a really easy print in like a standard 28-32 millimeters scale. I think we've pre-supported him around 35 millimeters high to the top of his hat. So it might be a little bit large if 28 millimeters is your thing, but you can always dial it back. I've also included in this month's pack a bust of Nyarlathotep as his Strange Pharaoh. And this one will print nicely a bit larger as well. So for those of you who wanted busts or collectibles, I was able to throw this together pretty easily. And so that's in there as a bonus for you guys. Next creature I did was the Uganak. This is a really cool monster that's an offspring of Nyarlathotep. So the story goes that the god impregnates women who submit themselves for this sacrifice ritual, and it's really horrendous, and this thing comes bursting, this homunculus comes bursting out of their womb, fully grown, and has this kind of tongue-like head. So I just went straight for it in virtual reality, started blocking out a sculpt that I liked, again going for something with a little bit more human anatomy, but having a lot of fun with the design of the head. So this is a look at it for you guys. You can see, of course, the eye and the mouth coming out of the hand. That's another little feature. He's also meant for a 28-32 millimeter scale. And both him and the Strange Pharaoh come with a base. I'm trying to get more bases on these guys for you guys so that you can get them on the tabletop nicely with a bit of customization to their bases as well. So here's the Uganak. And next we will go for the Haunter of the Dark. Yeah, and we'll look at all of them together. This is from the story by the same name, Haunter of the Dark. It's a classic H.P. Lovecraft story. This creature that's only vaguely described in the story is sort of theorized to be an avatar of Nyarlathotep, so another form that he takes when he's walking the earth. Not much, if I remember correctly, do we get from the story about this thing, other than a guy going insane at the end and crying out about a three-lobed eye. So this head, which I designed also to be vaguely bat-like, we will isolate this really quickly. I did two versions of the head, and the official supported one actually has kind of a split here to catch that three-lobed eye section. But this head also comes like this in a single cyclopean eye variant. And yeah, I looked at some really nasty bats and bat faces to design this look. And it's a pretty crazy sculpt. I'm pretty happy with how this turned out. Would like to push the pose and the anatomy maybe a bit further, especially in the wings where they meet the torso. But that said, I think it's got some really cool features. His body is sort of, if we zoom in here, is coming out of this cloud that also forms into various tendrils and things. There's some significant details in this cloud. Some heads, some swirling vortexes, some teeth, and things that are just kind of emerging out of it, as well as kind of a almost like a puffy look to it. So I think you'd be able to paint it as maybe smoke or clouds, or as like a blobby matter that he's pooling out of, whatever kind of strikes your imagination. And of course, he has a set piece that he's climbing around too. The story takes place in an old church where corrupt and evil things were happening. So I decided to whip up this archway, which I've included as its own separate piece, and I'll show this off in a minute. But in this vignette that is the Haunter of the Dark sculpt, we've got a little bit of stairs leading up to the archway, and then the Haunter itself as coming out of this swirling mass of matter perched around it. So this is most likely the final version. I will say this month I have not quite finished supporting and test printing everything yet. So there could be small changes, but I don't anticipate anything major. So this should be the final version that'll come when this sculpts drop in the first week of March on the Patreon. If you want, you can check out right up there at the top corner, patreon.com/VoidRealm Minis. Like I said, I put this whole bundle out for just $5, which is a crazy value. Usually a sculpt like this, when I sell it individually on a website like My Mini Factory or on Mini Hoarder, will probably go for, I'd say, $6 to $8 retail. Just because it's larger. This thing is about 90 millimeters total, and it prints in a few parts. I should probably talk about that too. Let's do that. So we have head, we've got the body, separates off here, and we have each wing will print separately. This will make it not only easier to support and a little easier to clean up, but it will, for those of you who have a vendor license and you are able to sell my prints, it helps in the shipping as well, which was pointed out to me and is a great feature. So, and then the base is all one piece. And his base includes his right leg. But yeah, this was a really, really cool sculpt. Chance to do something winged and dragon-like, but a bit atypical of a standard, a standard dragon or wyvern, whatever that is. I can say it in my head, but never out loud. Anyway, the Window of the Lost. So this is the set piece from the Haunter of the Dark, but extracted so that you can print it as terrain. This piece actually prints really, really well as an FDM print. I threw it on my CR10. It's about 65 millimeters tall at default size. You can scale it up or down really easily. It requires a couple of supports if you don't like really messy overhangs for an FDM print, but really not that many. So it's a quick and easy one. Nice to do. I basically had fun with this stone archway and a little bit of kind of gothic ornamentary around the top, and then I very subtly carved what could be a creature kind of snaking around into the window, and you could maybe do this, paint it like stained glass or like a vortex of some kind. You can bring out and overemphasize or underemphasize the details in this window as you like. On the back, we've got something similar, except a very more overtly creature-esque, almost like a mural, maybe, like a primitive caveman mural of this creature who seems to be devouring a crescent moon that's dripping into its mouth. This is a little bit of a callback to that Mordian sculpt that I did about 6 months ago now. On the side columns, we have also this idea that these creatures, these cosmic horrors, are things that we aren't really sure, strange deities or avatars, are carved into the sides very crudely. And this down here, just a little bit of trivia, is a slight nod to Sulmerak, which is a cosmic horror I sculpted for the Spiral set back in October. So I made sure to give this face down here 6 eyes and a couple of the other defining features of that guy's face. So it was kind of fun tying all the world building together, like maybe all these cosmic horrors are related or part of the same universe. This window, I need to switch to this version, actually has 3 variations. So this one in the middle is the open mouth vine variation, and we've got some vines spilling out over the engravings and columns. This is a bit trickier to print on FDM. You can definitely still do it, but it'll work well in resin for sure. And then there's the standard version, which I just showed off, and there's also the open mouth but no vine version. So in this one, just really creepy, you have the mouths open. You probably recognize this is the pharaoh head repeated. So I sculpted the pharaoh first, and then I had a lot of fun using that head, since the idea is that these are different forms of Nyarlathotep, different aspects of his being, or different monuments built in construction or worship to him, maybe. So I use this head a lot in all of the sculpts as a bit of kit bashing and a way to always pull it back to the pharaoh. Just again, a bit of trivia there. And then we have just left the big bad cosmic horror to talk about. So this is a sculpt that I'm really proud of. This is the crawling chaos. So this, when I did a lot of research, I felt like many versions of Nyarlathotep, the monstrous ones anyway, always had the same kind of god of the bloody tongue avatar going on with the snaking head that just felt like a big tongue. And there were some really cool designs for sure, but I didn't want to do exactly that. I wanted something that felt like Nyarlathotep, but felt like a really original creature. So this thing, using crawling chaos as inspiration, definitely crawls. If we look at him from the top, it's kind of a centipede, and each of the legs are hands bent so that he can crawl along that way. He's got a lot of hands. And then, of course, you have his main ones in the front. The head up here has that pharaoh kind of headdress to it, with a nice gaping mouth. There's a couple more of those mouths inside the body, and we have this central mouth down here, as well as 2 lower hands that kind of plant him onto the ground. I had a lot of fun working up details for this one. I added a whole line of heads. If we isolate the main piece, you can see using the pharaoh head and blending it into the body was really cool, and gave some nice separation between the hairy bits on the back and the kind of, I don't even know, this textured belly section. So this thing is definitely a project. He's over 120 millimeters tall to the top of his hand. You could print him larger. For those of you that have larger printer beds, I included in the file this this abdomen piece, I call it, this part of his tail, as one piece, but otherwise everything is split up so that it will fit on the standard resin machines. So if we go through that real quick, we've got this main body here, we've got part B that will just slot in, and part C, which is his cloak. A couple other fun details about the cloak. There are these 2 pieces on the side that I call the wisps. If we isolate them, they each have a head on them, and they're optional. So the sculpt will look fine without them, but you can add them and glue them in place. Here's the other one on the right side. This one's got a little hand coming out of it as well. each of these arms up here are separated. So, and that's again for ease of printing, ease of supporting, and definitely ease of assembly. These guys will slot in right where they belong. And I have plenty of renders and will include a breakdown shot probably in the pack that helps you guys put it together. So again, this abdomen back here is in two parts. It's split here and here. The tail is also pretty cool and pretty bizarre. If we go back here, this tail popping out of this section, he'll slot in like that, and got a little bit of personality as well, with a head and a couple of hands forming out of that hair. So yeah, this is the crawling chaos. I have left a bit of room in various parts of the sculpt to maybe upgrade it or add some modularity in the future. So just kind of keep an eye out for maybe some alternate heads or different things that could slot into the mouth. Can have some fun playing with that kind of stuff. But yeah, this is the crawling chaos. Again, really happy with how this sculpt turned out, to be frank. I think I did get something that feels like NYARLATHOTEP, but also feels like my own design. Again, if you're not familiar with how I work, when I sculpt miniatures, I use virtual reality a lot to do a lot of the designing and the initial phases of the form building. And then I come into ZBrush here and refine everything. So maybe you guys don't, if you're watching, you don't know anything about even ZBrush or Adobe Medium, but you can always check out virtual reality sculpting and kind of see how people work that way. I have a couple of live streams on my channel as well. But I won't linger too much longer. That's basically it. These are the sculpts for the month of March, the NYARLATHOTEP set. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you found it useful. And, you know, as they say on YouTube, leave me a like, leave me a comment in the comments below if there's anything you find interesting or something you really liked or something you have a question about. I'll try to answer them. And again, check out my Patreon if you like this stuff and want to 3D print everything that you've seen here at home for yourself with for a really great value. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you next time.